Welcome everyone. So for those of you who don't know me, I am Bernadette Janson and I am responsible for the School of Renovating. And so tonight you're in for a treat because we have three presenters, myself, Jo Vadillo of Advocate Property,
Services.
and Property Women, and also Nhan Nguyen from Advanced Property Strategies. And so what we're going to be talking about is strategies that get traction quickly so that you can, I guess, if you're feeling a bit behind the eight ball, so that you can get up to speed really quickly with your wealth building. So we are running some events around this topic. So tonight's sort of like a sneak preview. And so we're each going to be presenting a section of our respective strategies. What I ask you to do is if you could just really shut everything off and just give us your attention for the next hour, and I promise you we'll deliver our best so that you get awesome value out of it. We've got a lot of content to get through, and so we'll be moving fairly quickly. And as I said, we are running an event in Sydney, in Melbourne, and in Brisbane. And if you want to learn more about any of the strategies, then there is still time to actually get tickets and come into one of those events. And the other thing I wanted to say, oh no, that's it. I'm going to get into it. Okay, so welcome. Now, what I would like, actually, I remembered what I was going to say. Could I ask you to actually participate? So if I ask a question and ask you to type in a response, if you could do that, because it just makes it a lot more fun and a lot more interesting for everyone. So I have a question. Who here is working on replacing their income with property? Is that your end goal? Yep, great, awesome. Beautiful, this is amazing. Such responsiveness, thank you so much. Okay, who's just not getting there fast enough? Who wants to really speed it up? Beautiful, okay.
Great responses.
So yeah, it's fantastic. So tonight you've got three experts who've been in your shoes. And what we want to do is share our best ways to shortcut the process. And if you stay to the end, you're going to get a very special bonus that is not available anywhere else. Okay, so you've told us that you're not getting there fast enough. Why do you think that is? What's stopping you from getting the results that you want? Is it that you don't know where to start? Are you confused by which strategy to use? Yeah, beautiful. Or is it that you don't have any money for a deposit, so you can't get started because you can't get that deposit money together? Yep, okay. Lack of confidence, looking after mum, yeah, lots of stuff. Okay, so what I want to tell you is that you are in the right place, okay, because that's what we're going to be talking about tonight. Just like you, we weren't born with the silver spoon in our mouths either. We started at rock bottom. Oh, Nhan.
Hi, it's working.
Hey, he exists.
Lovely to see you. And climbed the long, slow path of trial and error.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so tonight we're going to be sharing with you some of the secrets we've discovered along the way. So once again, I just want to introduce you to myself, Bernadette, on the left, Jo in the middle, and Nhan on the right-hand side. So what I want to do now is actually hand you over to Jo to kick off the awesome strategies that she's going to be sharing with you tonight. Basically, what you're going to see is that anyone can do this and you can do it starting from scratch. Okay, over to you, Jo.
Sure. Now, Bernadette, do I have control of the screen to change slides?
Have you got the slides?
I've got your... No, I think you might need to...
How about I do the changing?
You have to do the changing. I have to like go Q. That's the one.
Yeah.
Hey, everybody. Look, thank you so much for choosing to be with us tonight. We've got a fantastic number of people. Like, obviously, we've got a lot of shared problems in the community in terms of, in our property communities, in terms of, you know, being stifled by a lack of finance, stifled by perhaps not knowing which step to take next, what strategy to implement. So just a quick background about myself. I have run Advocate Property Services since 2011. We are a full service buyers agency, but we do support people in the process of buying not only established properties, but also helping them project manage the process of new build ones, ensuring that they're in areas that certainly meet the investor criteria. So that's my company. I started it on the back of being an investor myself. Loving property, very hands-on, working full-time in a corporate environment, and it was just my passion. Property has always been my passion, so I retrained, got into that space to help other people. So very much in our business, we're very much focused on the investor mindset. We do look after owner-occupiers as well, but we understand investors. We understand the problems they come up. We understand the issues. We understand the motivation and also, I guess, what they want to achieve. We're very much all made cut from the same cloth in many ways. And this is the story that you will hear repeated throughout tonight is the journey that Nhan's been on, the journey that Bernadette's been on, and myself. We've all got very different strategies and ways of doing things, but we've all got a shared passion for property. So I'm a published author. I run a business, Good Advocate Property Services. I also run Property Women. So we're very much about education, inspiring women in getting themselves forward in the property space. And in my spare time, I'm a mum to 3 boys. So that was a picture of myself and my sons in Croatia in 2018. And that was an extensive 7-week European holiday that property and my property portfolio gifted us and my family. So travel's a very big part of what keeps me happy and keeps me motivated as well. And I love helping people on the journey. So that's my background. So I'm sorry I have to tell Bernadette or ask Bernadette if she could just move that along to the next screen. I don't know if there's a way you can hand over the reins to me, but what I'm going to be talking about tonight is 3 strategies. So I'm going to be covering off just top line, what I'm going to be getting into in a big way in the events that we've got coming up. But tonight, I'm just going to give you some top line strategies that I know have worked really well for our clients. And the first one I'm going to share with you is going to be looking at how to buy properties that make you money. So many investors do jump on the property bandwagon and then they accrue a couple of properties and find that they're going to have to chip in some of their hard-earned cash. Their cash flow is then hindered. Their lifestyle is, compromised as a result of them buffering up perhaps their own principal place of residence and a couple of properties. And it doesn't have to be that way with property. You don't have to have a portfolio that is anchoring you in a negative manner. So I want to show you right now thanks Bernadette. These are some of the properties that we've found for our clients. Now this is a new build property. Looks like a standard, lovely, neat, brand new property. But what you'll notice different about this particular property is it's got 2 letterboxes. And so what that means is underneath that roof line, you've got 2 income producing assets. You look at your front door and the garage there on the left-hand side, that is a 3-bedroom house. And for all intents and purposes, on the right-hand side, you go around to the side of the house and the front door is there for an annexed unit. And so I'll show you what that floor plan looks like if we just have a look here. The blue line in between shows where there's a fire retardant wall, acoustically sound. So you don't have to live, you're not hearing people next door. It is perfectly sound. It allows people to live in half a house. People would rather live in a house with a yard and for children, for pets, just because they like having a garden than having an environment where they're sharing with 30 others when they're living in a unit complex. And so these dual income producing properties are fantastic for that particular sole purpose. And in the rear of the yard, you also have a fence line. So you're not ever having to really cross paths with your neighbours. Now I'm going to show you the real numbers. And if we have a look at this, this is a client of ours. We secured this property for $477,000, currently rented at $680 per week. Remembering we've got two side by side, rental yield is 7.41%. So these clients of ours are making, before their tax, before their pre-tax cash flow is $227 per week, post $291 per week. And then you get the depreciation benefits of having a new build. So for those first 10 years, they're looking at $65,500 in depreciation, which has served them so well. In fact, these guys have actually done this a couple of times since they've actually got their first one. And I did those numbers based on a higher interest rate than what we're currently looking at in this environment. So those numbers actually get better. And I will show you why and how we can do the stamp duty savings as well, which I know a lot of people will love because no one really likes paying such high fees on your stamp duty. So if I can move right along to the next slide, what do you do with your extra money? So it depends on you. So we've got these dual income properties, and look, some people question like, who's going to buy it or who's going to live in it. So it is absolutely sought after in many areas because, as I mentioned, people like living in half a house as opposed to a unit. They've got situations where they're first homeowner and they're buffering up that mortgage payments by having an income producing asset on one side. There's situations where it's a mum and dad and grandma and grandpa on the other side as well. And what people I'm seeing is that when you're an owner on one side and you're renting out the other half, they're funneling that extra money to shave money off their principal place of residence. They're eroding their mortgage. And I'm going to share with you what those numbers look like now. These are real numbers based on the loan amount of 400. So these are just the average figure for a mortgage in Australia. So we're talking about just under $489,000. So when we've seen clients use the excess funds they make from these dual income producing assets and funnel that money into their mortgage, and I've done these numbers based on 4.2% interest rate. Now, if you're paying 4.2%, you need to get onto a broker and get your numbers fixed and looked at and reviewed and refinanced, because you can get some cracker deals at the moment and you may as well jump on that bandwagon. So let's just be conservative, because I'm not going to make any false promises. Interest rates will one day come back up. But if you funneled that extra money into your mortgage over a period of 30 years, over that time, you will save yourself almost close to 13 years, or as it translates here, almost $175,000, which is huge. Or the money could be used to fund another form of asset perhaps, or even just improve your lifestyle, which I'll also share with you in just a minute. So if we could just go to that next screen here, I'm going to discuss what the stamp duty savings look like. So if I could just show you the graph that's going to come up, and I know the font's a little bit small, so I apologize, but I'll read that out to you as well. On the left-hand side, we've got a block of land. So what many people are not aware of is that when you do build, if you're buying it in a two contract scenario, so you've got, you're buying the land first and foremost, and then you've actually got the two contracts, then you've got the build contract. The way I work with my clients is I help facilitate this. We look at infill land. We look in areas where someone subdivided a backyard. I purchase and help them support them through that process of buying the land. And in that process, then I go and price up the dual income property to build on that particular site, making sure that there's not going to be unforeseen costs as well. So for this example, we've got $220,000 block of land on the left-hand side. You're paying stamp duty here of $6,653 for that block. If you were to buy it as a singular property, like it was all done and dusted, and it was all like, here's your house and home package, you're looking at $17,461 for your for your stamp duty. So I'll show you, I'll do the math for you. So if we can just go on to that next slide, please, Bernadette. So there you go. It's almost $11,000 in savings from your stamp duty, because you've paid for for the land only, and that's where you get those savings. And people do get nervous when they are building. They're anxious that there's going to be some extreme holding costs, and we work with builders that we know, like, trust, and have done plenty of builds with. So these are builders that have got very clean licenses. They are reliable. They come in under time. We even write into the contract if it goes over. There's an allocation of $100 per day for every day they go over in the event that you might find inclement weather, et cetera, et cetera. So it's in their best interest to deliver on time. We go and visit the properties as they're being built to make sure it's all coming in as we've requested, and you get to choose the colours and everything. If you're an investor, I always say keep the palette neutral. It's not about you. It's about the longevity and getting your tenants in there. So that's a massive saving right there. But you use that savings and your stamp duty to fund the holding cost whilst that is being built as well. So if we could just get on to the next there, I'm going to share with you now my clients, Tatiana and Jed. Now, their brief to me was quite simple. That was quite a hefty one. They want 10 properties before a significant birthday occurred for both of them. So that was they knew they had to allocate, a good number of years, I guess, to a certain extent, to make sure that they could achieve what they want to achieve. They already had their principal places of residence in Sydney. So they that was their brief. They want 10 properties in total, and that was what they wanted. So I'll show you here the first one we bought. Okay, so number one, doing the exact formula that I've just shared with you in terms of finding the land in an area that's already established. We found this property that was on a corner block, which is always gold. You've got a front-facing property there that faces number 11, faces one street, and behind that, number 2 is facing another street. So that's utopia. You've got a property that they don't ever look at each other. They're even got different street numbers and names. And we went ahead and purchased this property, but it was already on 2 titles. So yes, there's some costs in terms of subdividing, but then we got the plans done up, and I'll show you what that looks like, what we did for them. As you can see, that front house has a pool in the front yard, which is, it's fine. It's Queensland. Pools are great in Queensland. But what was fantastic for Tatiana and Jed also was in the rear, there was a shed, it had to be removed, and there was an established granny flat there, but it was a very, it was a bit of a lackluster kind of build, this particular granny flat. And so what we actually did was put them on Gumtree, and someone else paid their money to come and clear the site for them. And so then they had this site that we could just come and prep for a build. And I'll show you what that looks like. We can just go to that next slide. Using the same formula, 2 incomes, there's the floor plan, the red line indicating where the divide is. And if we look at the next image here, I've got the plans. So we look at the front elevation, and there you go. That's perfect. And there it is. That's the one they built in the back. So now they've got 3 incomes on that one lot. And that's just chugging away beautifully for them. Of course, they both work, so the depreciation's fantastic with them in terms of their tax and minimizing their tax and their outgoings. They've got an opportunity here where they could retain the new and sell off the old. At this point, they're hanging on to everything. And so this works so well, they rinsed and repeated. So if we can have a look at the next property we secured for them. Oh, sorry, that's the aerial. If you can see there what it looks like now, you can see the roof of the new build on that rear lot, and how they've got the driveway there. So those 2 people never have to cross paths at all, and it's got its own unique entrance and everything too. So that was great. And fortunately for these guys, we can do it again for them. So if I show you what the next purchase looks like for their second property purchase with us, again, 2 lots on 1 title. And as you can see, as we purchased it, the house sat perfectly on one side, which was fantastic, which allowed us to have, I think it was around just under 800 square meters on the other side. And you can see there that there's water tanks and other bits of, there's like, it was like a veggie patch, et cetera, and a fair bit of tree foliage. Of course, people come along and you put your hand up and say, hey, I've got a shed and 3 water tanks. Guess what happens? They make money because someone else comes in, takes the water tanks for them, and then I think they sold them for something like $1,000 about. They made a good couple of $1,000s off the stuff they had in the shed and everything in the rear. The tree arborist costs were probably comparable to that, to clear that and prepare it. Sorry. I've got a brand new phone, and wouldn't you know it, it just happens to go off right now. So that secondary lot there, it's enough room to put a duplex. And what I'll show you, if I can just go to that next slide, please, Bernadette. This is what it looked like on the street map. And next one down again. That's the existing house. So good, solid, fine. As we look at it, these are the plans. And then what we have next, a duplex. Again, you can see that it's got the 2 letterboxes at the front. And a difference between a dual key and a duplex is a duplex is a mirrored, the floor plans are mirrored, they're mirrored floor plans. Whereas a dual key, you might find there's a 3+2 or a 4+1 or a 4+2. So 4 bedrooms on one side, 2 bedrooms on the other. And then what you can't do with a dual key is you can't sell off one side. So with a duplex, you can actually sell off both sides. So you can strata title a duplex and sell one side off. So again, I've got this opportunity for Tatiana and Jed, if they would like to sell one side off or sell the old house, et cetera, et cetera. So I think I've got a copy of the floor. Sorry, if I could just, yeah. So that's what I'm mentioning before with the mirrored floor plan. They are identical to one another. And that's the, that's just, you know, in terms of the ability for you to sell one side off, if you're an investor and you need to funnel some of that money back into a property, that's gold. I mean, that could be that you want to hang on to one side and then use the money for another thing. One tip I will give you is don't get it, don't subdivide the property and don't strata title it rather until you're ready or you want to sell one side off, because in the event you do that, then you start paying 2 council rates. So definitely worth holding fire on that. So if I could just talk to you just for a moment, just in regards to freedom, like the event that we're talking about freedom against the odds. We're talking to, you know, how do we make money work for us? How do we use our money strategically? And many of these dual key properties, you know, you can secure them sometimes just south of 500,000. And then of course the numbers can climb up depending proximity to the city, how large the block of land is that you buy. And that's my role to help facilitate that based on my client's budget. And in terms of freedom, this is what freedom looks like to many people. If we just have a look at this next screen, and it can be putting your money back into other investments. For me, it was always about travel. I've always been as a bit of a travel junkie. It could just be that you can make choices without looking at the right-hand column of a menu. It could be that you start to be able to do things with your kids, whether it is support them through education or even helping elderly parents, which is really important to so many people as well. It just gives you life choices. And I think it's really important to remember that it's what does it mean to you, and how I've overcome a lot of I started my life out as a child of a single parent. She was only a teenager when she had me, my mum, my beautiful mum. I lived and shared a bedroom with her until I was 10 years old. We shared a bunk bed. And I had a lot of, I guess, a lot of things spoke. I was a little bit of judgment placed on me at that point in my life. And it did form a desire within for me to rise above my childhood and my upbringing and to not be judged. And a lot of people, as a result of the successes that they make, put their money now back into the community as well and helping others. And that's one of the things that I love doing, is seeing, and one thing I'll say about investors in the property space, that it doesn't matter about your educational background. What I see work for investors is tenacity. That's a really important one. It's just the ability to get up and keep going. It's the ability to be here tonight. It's the ability for you to make sacrifices to get yourself educated and to move forward. So we can deliver freedom to you as well by hearing some of our strategies as we get a little bit deeper on these. And so I'll end off with this one particular slide. This is a critical one for me and my family at the moment. So freedom to me could be just that we find some toilet paper very soon. So I'm going to hand it back over to you, Bernadette.
Sorry, I had myself muted. Thank you for that, Jo. That's a very poignant point to finish up on. So, yeah.
It's a realistic problem in my house.
You know what? I think I can help out. So just let me know. Because fortunately, we have our toilet paper on subscription.
Fantastic. Yeah. It's critical.
So I was actually just thinking about a couple of things while you were talking there, because I don't think I've really sat down and listened like I know the strategy. And one of the things I was thinking of is I'm always telling the people that I work with, don't buy anything off the plan because they are always so overpriced. But the great thing about you, and I think this is a real testament to your, I guess, honesty and integrity, is that because you work directly with the builder, you've not got those huge, developer fees that they charge on off the plan things. So
Yeah.
you're getting it at a good price.
And it's not like I do the off the plan where you buy today and in 3 years you get a property. It's about managing something that you might purchase in March and have the keys and tenants in for September.
Yeah.
I mean, the turnaround, because we help manage that, like we secure the land, the builder's in, before settlement happens, the builder's already running numbers with council. So we move ahead at a pace, and we're holding our clients' hands throughout that. So if it's uncharted territory, we're there to be that support.
Yeah. And it's not like you're buying a block from a lot that's been released. You're actually going to where the best place for your clients to buy is. And I think that's the difference as well.
Yeah, 100%.
So you're working with them. Yeah, awesome. And the other thing I thought is that dual key strategy, awesome for Airbnb, just saying.
Oh, absolutely. Wouldn't it be?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is what I'm going to talk about now. So I know there's quite a lot of our community on here, but for those of you who don't know, my name's Bernadette, and I have been working with property for quite a lot of years. But in the early years, we, when I say we, my husband and I, sort of like not really being very strategic. We're just having a lot of fun, but not being overly strategic. So it's been in probably the last decade that we've got really intentional about what we're doing, because we were looking at retirement and we weren't well enough prepared. And so I guess our passion is renovating, but somewhere along the way, we learned about Airbnb. In fact, we were very early adopters of Airbnb. And that is what I want to talk to you about tonight. At the event, I'll talk about a lot of different strategies, but I know that there's a lot of people interested in this one. And so I'm going to talk about this tonight, because one of the things that you need when you're feeling behind the 8 ball, or you are behind the 8 ball, is you need to get traction quickly, and you need to be able to build a substantial income, often without a lot of resources to throw into it, in a short amount of time. And that's the one thing that I absolutely love about Airbnb. And I'm going to, I guess, explain to you some of the ways that we use it. I'm going to share with you a case study, but I can tell you I've got a whole bag of these to share when we've got more time to spend together. Now, why would you use Airbnb? So basically, I think it's the rocket fuel that you add to your wealth building. While I'm talking about Airbnb, what I'm really referring to is the short-term rental market. So we refer to it as Airbnb because everyone knows what that is, but in reality, there are quite a few platforms. So basically, turning negatively geared properties into cash cows, to basically, instead of planting tomatoes in your backyard, plant a money tree, as in an Airbnb, and earn anything up to $1,000 a week. Combine renovating with Airbnb to put your portfolio into overdrive. And the fourth strategy is to build a 6-figure income from other people's properties. Okay, how does that sound? Now, I'm sure that you know that anyone can list a property on short-term rental, and I'm sure many of you have had a go at it, okay? Some of you, I'm sure, are very successful at it. But here's the thing. 1% of the hosts are making 20% of the income. So that means that for every dollar an ordinary host makes, a really good host is making $20. So there's a huge amount of value in actually working on your skills and your strategies with Airbnb to make sure that you maximize your efforts. So what I'm going to be doing is going through some of the things that make an exceptional host, giving you some tips along the way and pretty much showing you how it works. Okay, so why do you think it is that a professional host will make so much more than an everyday host? Anyone like to have a guess what the secret sauce is? Okay, I'm going to have to tell you. So the first thing is they list on, thank you, Alicia, excellent response. Alicia mentioned efficiency and outsourcing. Yes, that definitely does form a large part of what you are doing. So listing on multiple platforms is one of those, one of the things that creates, you know, like it enables you to really push up your income on Airbnb. However, when you're first setting out, you don't want to do that. You really want to consolidate your work on the Airbnb platform for a few reasons. But one, because it is so much safer and it's very easy to get yourself into hot water by making mistakes with your property listing. I can tell you that because I think I've made every one of those. I've had a nice party. I've had someone get off with quite a large amount of a large booking and not pay for it. I've had, yeah, anyhow, I won't go into that too much. I'll put you off forever. So really good idea to build your skills on one platform before you start expanding out to the other platforms. The other thing is when you start going onto multiple platforms, that's when you need to start using management systems to manage those properties so that you're able to operate them or manage them all from one place. That's a more advanced skill. So we stick with the simple for a start and then develop once we've got that mastered. So the second reason why 1% of the hosts are making 20% of the income is because they know how to manage their calendar. Now, it might surprise you to know that, because I know when I first started in Airbnb and I listed a property and it filled up, you know, months ahead, you know, in a matter of days, I would think that I was doing really well. But in reality, that is a sort of a rookie mistake. You really don't want your calendar filled up completely, much more than 2 to 3 weeks out, okay? After that, you want it really thinning out. And the reason being that if your calendar is chock-a-block, then your price is probably too high, okay? So you're not managing your price, your calendar adequately to maximize your price. So the second, oh, sorry, I've got these around the wrong way, but anyhow, so that's, I was talking about pricing management by having no vacancies and not allowing people who are willing to pay a decent amount for your listing the opportunity to book it. So you need to manage that very carefully. With calendar management, you're also managing and making sure that you are booking up every single day that's available, okay? So often you will end up with odd days. They're called orphan days. So you need to be able to manipulate your calendar so that you can open them up and make sure that, that you can get a full week filled out, not gaps here and gaps there. So managing your calendar to make sure that you are able to get the most income from your property. Reputation management. Now I know that someone mentioned something about experience, and this is part of that scenario. So you will get people who give you negative reviews. That's part of the process. So you need to be able to manage that, that your reputation, despite the fact that you will get people that won't give you 5 stars. Unfortunately, with Airbnb, a 4-star is as good as a 1-star. So you want to make sure that you manage that, so you maintain your ratings, so that you maintain your visibility. It's interesting because I was going through with some of our students today the things that Airbnb look for in order to be able to give your property a higher visibility. And we have a list of something like 45 items, a checklist of 45 items that we can tweak to improve the visibility of our listing. So there's lots that you can do. Over the life of a listing, you will get around about 250 reviews before the listing matures. So there's a lot of improvement that you can do in that time to make sure that you're winding the income up as you go. So the 5th reason is to list multiple properties. So now you might think, oh, well, you know, they all have multiple properties. That's not the case. I think it's around about 27% list multiple properties. So, you know, you've probably listed your spare room in your house and you might have an investment property, you might not. What happens if you don't have any more property to list? Does anyone know what the answer to that is? I'm checking in just to make sure you're listening. Rent, excellent. Actually, Christine, yes. Brilliant. Okay, so you rent properties. So use someone else's property to build your portfolio. The great thing about Airbnb and short-term rental in general is it's a strategy that you can tailor to your circumstances. It doesn't matter where you're at, there is something that you can do with short-term rental. Now, if you're an empty nester and the chicks have flown the coop, well, the no-brainer way to leverage Airbnb is to turn your empty nest into a money tree. Now, most properties will lend themselves to a rework, so that you can either have a granny flat under main roof, or some people, like for my husband and I, we actually sold our family home because we wanted to downsize, and we made sure that we bought something that we could renovate for Airbnb. That property currently delivers us $1,000 a week in extra income. And we're working on improving that, because I know from the data that there's an extra $10,000 a year. So $1,000 a week, it's clearing about 50 grand a year. And I know that if I keep working it, I should be able to get that up to 60,000 a year. So that is an awesome income that comes out of something that you already own. So it hasn't got a mortgage on it. That's all pure cash flow. So that's a no-brainer strategy. So if you don't have any money and you don't have any property and you can't get a loan, no problem, because of course you can rent a property. And at our events, I'm going to be laying out the system. Just excuse me, I'll have to take a drink of water. Okay, the system where you start with $6,000 seed funding, And over 12-month period, you rent up to 5 houses, one at a time until it's paid back its seed funding. Then you go and rent a second and keep going until you've got 5. Apologies, my throat decides to give out when I'm in the middle of a webinar. Anyhow, that will deliver $10,000 a month, which is $120,000 per year. So there you've got someone who's gone from having no property, no income, no capacity to get a loan, to have a portfolio of rented properties that's delivering $10,000 a month. So all of a sudden, they are then in the position where they are able to get a loan. And of course, you know, start building their portfolio in other ways. So Jess just asked, are they normal residential rentals? They're short-term rentals, so they're normal residential properties, but we apply the short-term rental strategy to. Yes, you do need to get permission from landlords. So I would never recommend that you do something that's not legal. However, we have plenty of students that are actually doing that right now. Now, if you've got negatively geared properties, I would, first thing to do is to run the numbers on it to see if you can convert it into a short-term rental property. Sometimes you can, sometimes you can't. So one of our students, Kerry, came to us, and she and her husband, David, had a couple of mining town properties that was absolutely bleeding them dry because they had, you know, bought them in the boom. They were holding on to them because they'd had advice that it would come back, but it was really hard to hold. When we ran the numbers on them, they just didn't stack up in terms of short-term rental. So what they did is they went and bought another property. So it was they could only afford this property, which was a $300,000, I think you would call it a townhouse, type of townhouse in Belmont. So they did that. They did a renovation on the property and increased its value to $430,000. So originally they really wanted to flip it, okay? And so they paid $300,000 for it. They increased the value to $430,000, but when they sold it, they probably would have only cleared about $60,000 or $70,000, and then they would have had to pay tax on that. So it really didn't make sense to sell it. So I encouraged them to give Airbnb a go, and wouldn't you know it, Kerry is an absolute queen of Airbnb. And so they've now had this property for a couple of years, and they're averaging $1,000 a week from it. So that's the property after it was renovated. Of course, you need to be careful about what you spend on the renovation and where you spend it, because in a short-term rental property, you have different priorities in terms of the reno that you do. And they did a great job of the reno. And so now, so they paid $300,000 for it. After the reno, it was valued at $430,000. In terms of long-term rent, I'm saying before, but with long-term rent, they would get $340 a week. But instead, they listed on the short-term rental market, and they're averaging $1,000 a week. Now that's after the Airbnb expenses. So it pays its own expenses, plus it offsets the negatively geared properties. So it's an absolute game changer. So I've just noticed there's a question going on about, in the chat box about, do you disclose at the time of applying for the lease? Absolutely. You do not lease the property unless you have approval from the landlord to list it on Airbnb. Okay, so that's me for now. And as I said, I have got lots more to share with you. So I guess the thing I want you to take away is that it doesn't matter whether you want to make 20,000 just from one property, so you've got extra pocket money, or you want to, build. We've got students that have built, massive incomes with 20 properties. It's completely up to you, and the world is your oyster. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Nhan. Welcome.
Thanks, Bernadette. How you going, guys? Can you hear me? Yeah. Good stuff. Look, thanks for having me on tonight, and I'm really privileged to be sharing the stage with these guys very soon as at our Freedom Against All the Odds event. And yeah, good to see some familiar names and faces on the chat box as well. So under a bit of time constraints. So yeah, tonight I'll be talking just as a taster of what I'll be covering at our Freedom Against the Odds event there. I did make some notes about some of the things that Jo and Bernadette did talk about. Yeah, there's just so much information out there, and there's so many different ways that you can make money through property, which is really, really cool. You're in the right place and the right time, with interest rates dropping recently. Yeah, I was really, really shocked. Obviously, there's a lot of talk of coronavirus and how it's going to affect the economy. My wife asked me, are we in a recession? La, la, la. But you know what? I've been looking at the auction clearance rates over the last 2 weekends, because the auction clearance rates is a really good indicator of how the market is going and what people are anticipating in the marketplace. Hopefully that microphone's better. Can you hear me now, guys? Is that better? Microphone wise? Yep, that's better. Thanks, guys. So yeah, like I was saying, is we're looking at the clearance rates for auctions over the weekend, and property's been going still very, very well. So yeah, I'm still very excited about the marketplace. I've got a few properties that are on the market currently as well, and it's yeah, very, very interesting times out there. Moving on to what I was actually going to talk about is subdivision secrets. So there's been covered talking about duplexes and Airbnb, and I think that they all dovetail into what I talk about, which is the development side of things. And for some of you, you may want to look into development now or down the track, and it's very much complementary what I'm talking about with the ladies there. So like I said before, is that property is so diverse. There's so many different ways that you can make money through property, and I started out using these various strategies 5, 10, 15 years ago. So thanks, Bernadette. Yep, we're on to the slides. Thank you. On to the next one. Yeah, so at our upcoming event that Jo and Bernadette have been talking about, I'll be talking about you make your money when you buy, right? You're making your money when you buy, and buying right. That's one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they buy property, is they just pay too much. They're in a rush to buy that property. They don't want to miss out. And so they pay too much, and they end up paying for it, so to speak, long term, because they're unable to sell it at a profit, or unable to sell it at all because they're in a negative equity position, or the market just doesn't want to buy what they have brought to market. So the other thing is investing in talent. Some people talk about just investing in property. I very much also invest in talent, and then free blocks of land, which is really, really cool as well. Thank you, Bernadette. Next one. So yeah, just a quick rundown on me. I know Bernadette has given me a bit of background, the fact that we all started with nothing. I grew up in a housing commission estate. My parents came over from Vietnam in 1975 after the Vietnam War. Since then, I've written a handful of books. I've done a whole stack of deals. At the moment, I'm doing a reasonably large land subdivision, which I actually just signed the finance documents for the bank today. Yay, another $2 million in debt, excitement plus. And finishing off a child care centre application at the moment, as well as running seminars and workshops to help people do the same and make money through property. So I got a lot of help along the way, and I got help from mentors who helped me learn how to make money in property as opposed to lose money in property. Oftentimes people lose their confidence in property because they may have bought one and lost money on it, or had bad tenants like I have in the past, or did a deal that they thought was going to make money but it ended up breaking even or losing money. So sometimes people equate their confidence to the amount of money that they've made or lost in property and carry that baggage around, which is fair enough. I was like that as well for my first couple of deals. I didn't make much money at all. And so, yeah, it takes a bit of education and a bit of persistence as well. Steering you in the right direction really helps. So thanks, Bernadette. On to the next one. Yeah, so the good news here from me tonight is that I have made a lot of mistakes. Right? I've made a lot of mistakes through the property scenario, through the property game, borrowing money from investors that are expensive, paying too much, projects taking too long. So, if anything you get from tonight and or coming to the weekend event that we've got coming up is that learn from other people's mistakes, right? It costs a lot less and you don't have to go through the same pain. That's a big part of why I do workshops as well, is because I have made a lot of mistakes and sometimes they have been financially stressful, sometimes just emotionally stressful because you're put in a situation where you may have not encountered it before. You may not want to deal with breakdowns or issues with people upset at you because of whatever reason. But yeah, that's just part of the property game, right? And once you know how to manage those things, which I'll be talking briefly about tonight, it makes property a lot more enjoyable and a lot more profitable as well. Thanks, Bernadette. So just quickly, one of my clients here, this is Maggie Smith. She used to be an IT consultant, and one of her recent deals actually finished last year. It made just over 200K in 5 months. Right, just over 200K in 5 months. And this is very typical of some of the clients that go through my workshops and apply the principles that I teach. One of the things I'll talk about at my workshops, as well as my presentation at one of the events, is getting what's called a free block of land. If you notice on that particular site there, similar to Joe's before, is that house is actually already on 2 lots. Right, the house is already on 2 lots. It's in a suburb called Nunda, which is on the north side of Brisbane, near the airport. Often people say there's no deals around. However, my clients, using the strategies I teach, find opportunities under their noses where other people may not be able to see them at all. So on to the next slide. Thanks, Bernadette. So just some quick numbers here. She paid just under $1 million for it. Cost around about 300K to develop the site, slide the house, renovate the site, renovate the house, put the fencing up. And she was able to sell the house for $890. Just remember, she paid $960. She sold the house for $890 and then sold the land for just under $600K. Right, so there's some really good margins in there when you know what you're doing. Oftentimes people say to me, I can't find deals. There's no good deals out there. People pay too much. So one of the things that we teach in our programs is how to find deals off market, how to get deals before they even hit the internet, how to get deals directly from property owners. Yeah, so on to the next slide there. So thanks, Bernadette. On to the next one. So like I mentioned before, part of my 3 strategies for what I'm presenting at the event is secret number 2 is invest in talent. Oftentimes people think that just investing in property, investing in your education is important as well, but you want to be investing in talent. That's part of what my clients invest in me, because there's so much people you just don't know that you don't know. If you're interested in Airbnb, you can talk to Bernadette. If you want to be doing duplexes, you can talk to Joe there, because there's so much you don't know that you don't know. And we as property professionals are doing property day after day, every day, dealing with the problems of construction, dealing with the problems of tenancies and rules and regulations. And I can't say I'm an expert in all 3 fields that we're talking about. I'm definitely a specialist in my field, and that's really where you want to build a team. That's part of the journey as well, is building a team. And in property development, having a right town planner, a surveyor, an accountant, a solicitor, having a mentor really, really helps, because there's so many bullets that you got to dodge along the way, whether it's land tax, whether it's structuring, whether it's council rules and regulations, legals. You really want to build a great team. Thanks, Bernadette. Yeah, for sure. Because one of my sayings is, if you pay peanuts, you're going to get monkeys, right? And last thing you want is having a monkey build your house or work on your site, because it's going to turn out, a lot of trouble and a lot of headache. And so when I'm talking about advisors, you really want advisors that either make you money and or save you money. And I'm happy to pay extra. Sometimes we try to look for the cheapest thing, cheapest this, cheapest that. And usually that's fine if it's a commodity, right? But with a service, I'm wanting things like better customer service. I'm wanting a better response time. I'm wanting better problem-solving abilities to save you time, money, and headaches. And so, you know, one of the people that I invest in heavily is my town planner. This is a site I looked at that I was sure that you could develop, right? I was sure, I'd bet money on it that you could develop it, subdivide it into two, because it was close to the train, close to the shops. If you looked at all the websites and all the council sites and all the planning sites, it looked like absolutely opportunity to subdivide. So I went to buy it, but obviously every time about to buy something, I always run it by my town planner. Next slide. Thanks, Bernadette. And he basically said that it ticked all boxes except one. It ticked all boxes except one, and that one box was a huge risk. Long story short, if you see in this slide here, there's a pink section on the left and a yellow and blue section on the right. The blue section is the one of interest, which indicates a shopping centre strip, or a neighbourhood centre as we call it, and that enables one block to be able to subdivide it into two, because it's within 200 walking metres of that neighbourhood centre. But because it didn't tick a certain box, I could not subdivide it. And so it was a really good day because I didn't buy it, right? It's funny, you know, you might think, oh, some days you're better off buying stuff, but no, it was a really good day because I didn't buy a dud. I have a saying, property's easy to get in, hard to get out. That's right, Bernadette. Yep, next slide. Property's easy to get in, hard to get out, kind of like getting married. So you really want to get it right. You want to make sure you double, triple check, do your due diligence, and make sure you're making the right decisions. So that was a good day. And that was from what I thought was possible to very, very difficult. Whereas this one here was another site which I was absolutely sure that you could not subdivide it. And so it went from impossible to possible, where it was 800 odd square meters, but it sloped towards the rear, and it was a narrow frontage, only 18 meters wide. In Brisbane, you normally need about 10-meter frontage per each block. And our consultants found solutions to both. And we went to a council meeting for a pre-lodgement, you call it, and the council was very, very proactive on this development, even though it sloped towards the rear and was narrow. So in both instances, we're able to solve both those problems, which made me a very, very happy person, because I was buying the property anyway as an investment property. It was a property that in the area, median price was $800,000. And I got it for $440,000. So really, really happy with that. And on to the next slide. Thanks, Bernadette. Yeah, if you have a look at it here, it's a long, narrow block, house at the front there, and I was able to get an approval to cut it into two 400-odd square meter blocks. So really, really chuffed with that. And it was something that I swear would have been virtually impossible to subdivide. But, sometimes knowing too much can get in your way as well. So on to the next one. So in summary there, $440K purchase price. It's recently been valued at $710K with the two blocks of land subdivided. Equity uplift there being $270K, less the 100K or so for developments. Call it a paper profit of $170K in 12 months. So I'm planning to hold that. And at the seminars, I'll talk about how I'm turning those into 10% yield plus rental properties. So on to the next one. Thanks, Bernadette. And look, that's a big realization that some of you, if you've been in the game long enough and you've cut your teeth on a few deals, is that you just can't do it by yourself, right? You just can't do it by yourself. If you've tried to do it by yourself, good luck. Good luck. I've definitely tried it in this property game. Doing something by yourself is very, very hard. The wealthiest developers out there, they have teams and teams of people working on their projects. And, I've got a good town planner, good engineer, good project manager, and a lot of good consultants, accountants, solicitors. You don't have to have the whole team straight up, and you don't have to engage them all at the one time. But having a good team and building that team over time is critical, like having a mentor as well, steer you through the right direction when you're having problems along the way. Sometimes, or oftentimes, when you grow and you're doing new projects, you will encounter things that you just never would have been thought existed or never would happen to you. You just don't know what you don't know. And oftentimes people come to me too late. So ignorance is expensive, but you know what? If you think education is expensive, try ignorance. So a lot of clients who've worked with me make a lot of money through property over time. This is Suhane. She's made 45K profit on a buy, reno, sell. Lindsay from ACT did a reno, made 69K. Anne Blythe did a remote reno. She actually lives in ACT and did an Ipswich reno, made 75K profit. So, they've invested in talent i.e. such as myself, and got a good return on investment as well. So the key thing is, keep yourself educated and keep yourself sharp on the edge of the market. So before I wrap up and we move on is, one of the cool things I'll show at the workshop for those who do come along is I'll talk about free blocks of land on how I made 200K in 12 months on this 1,000 square meter block. So it's a 1,000 square meter block. I kept the existing house and cut off 180 square meter blocks, right? So I turned it from a 2 into 5 lot subdivision and made 200K in 12 months. So that's one of the cool things I'll be sharing at the workshops and the seminars we've got coming up. On to the next one. So in summary, the things that I'll be talking about at our coming events, you'll make your money when you buy. You make your money when you buy. And further again, investing in talent, free blocks of land, how to get free blocks of land, plus a bonus topic of how to buy property without any money. So that's where I started out, right? Bought my first property, ran out of money and had to find a way to be able to do that and do deals ongoingly, no money down. So definitely a specialty of mine and definitely a passion of mine as well. So keen to catch up with you guys very soon. Cool. So, so what we're going to talk about, guys, is our upcoming events over the next few weeks. We've got events coming up in Sydney, Melbourne and Brisbane. So we're going to share with you the dates and that and how you can get in. Recently, the pricing, when we're talking about good news and bad news, is that recently the pricing went up to $47 just over the weekend. And we're going to give you the opportunity to get in at this later stage with a $20 discount. So instead of $47, you can come into the event at a price of just $27 and bring a friend for free. So we're going to show you the website very soon. But the coupon code that you want is 20 Freedom. It's 20 Freedom, as you see there on the screen there. And this will give you the tickets at an early bird price special of $27, but it's only going to be limited to the next 50 registrations, plus it's only going to be available to this Friday at 12 p.m. So on to the next slide. Thanks, Bernadette. Yep. So plus we're going to give you an action takers bonus for those who register your tickets tonight, i.e. by midnight tonight. You go into the draw to win a 30-minute strategy call with a speaker of your choice, whether it's Bernadette, Jo, or myself. If you buy a ticket tonight, i.e. in the next few hours before midnight, you go into the draw to win a 30-minute strategy call with one of the speakers, whether it's myself, Jo, or Bernadette. And there's the place to register now. It's www.theschoolofrenovating.com/freedom offer. And you just use that coupon code there, 20 Freedom, and it'll change the pricing from 47 down to 27. And we're going to show you a few of the other bonuses very, very soon. Because I believe it's just amazing value. You get 2 books, you'll get a renovation guide as well, and it's a bring a guest for free. So you know what, it's a no-brainer. So we're going to go into some of the FAQs right now. As you've seen there, that's the URL to book in, www.theschoolofrenovating.com/freedom offer. Use the coupon code 20 Freedom. And these prices are valid till Friday at 12 p.m. And like I said, we're only going to take a further 50 tickets registration. So we're just sending the information around now in terms of the coupon code as well as the link there. If you've got any other questions, please type them in. I'm just going to go through some other cool FAQs that you might want to find out about. One of the cool things that Bernadette introduced to Jo and I, and feel free to chip in, any of you guys, to what I'm saying, is that, we've started introducing a networking lunch with speakers, right? A networking lunch with speakers. So what that means is you pay your entry fee, like I mentioned before, normally $47 with a $20 discount to $27, bring a guest for free. And when you click through, there's an opportunity for you to join us for lunch. It's $17 for the first person and just a further $10 for the partner. So I think that's absolutely bargain there. You know, I wish in the events that I've been through over the last 10, 15 years, there'd been an opportunity to network with the speakers. And that was Bernadette's idea. She launched that last year. And it's just a really great way, low pressure environment to have a chat and find out more and get to know the speakers and what they're up to, and you know what kind of things that float their boat, what hobbies they have, not just what you see on stage, because that's just part of a persona that's there that we put on to put on a show. But having said that, we are real people at the end of the day, and we do eat lunch from time to time when we remember. So on to the next one there. Thanks, Bernadette. Anything you guys want to add, definitely let us know.
Networking lunches are fantastic, aren't they?
Oh, for sure.
Yeah, I always find that there's so much chat. There's a lot of food still doesn't get touched because you're in a room full of people who are fired up, and it's just like-minded thinkers, and it's just fun. I think a lot of people just like in my world, I'm obsessed with property. I love being around people who think like me, but in my day-to-day life, it's not happening.
Yeah.
Look, the other thing I think that's quite important is that often you will think, maybe that strategy will work for me, but you'd really like to have a conversation with someone to really get down and dirty in your particular circumstances. So that's always an opportunity to talk to the the people and, get a bit more of the information that you need to make decisions.
Absolutely. And also you'll get to see other people who have bought that networking lunch / VIP ticket as well, who are very passionate about property. So it does sort out and qualify some of the other attendees for yourself from a selfish point of view, because you want to get value for money as well. So for those who are wondering where the venues are and start and date times, they are on the website. But just to give you a bit of a summary, is in Sydney, it's on the 15th of March. Brisbane, it's Saturday the 21st of March. Melbourne, Sunday the 22nd of March. And each of the events go from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. The respective venues are there. And once you go to the website and once you register, the specific street addresses of those venues will be emailed to you as well. So the elephant in the room, what about the coronavirus? So look, if you've been exposed to someone who's come back from overseas recently or in quarantine or any of the countries that have been mentioned on the news, I suggest, definitely, stay at home. For those of you who are feeling a bit sick, you can catch us next time. We will be offering a bit of hand sanitizer. Is that right, Bernadette, on the day?
Yes, it will be.
I was going to wear a mask to present, but I don't think people would recognize me. So, no, but in all seriousness, look, be responsible around this. It is definitely on the news. Try not to buy into it. But having said that, if you're getting some cold and flu symptoms, just hang on in there and you can catch us at another time. So, but otherwise, if you're fit and well, definitely book in and we'll see you very soon. So, what will be covered by each speaker? So, Jo, you want to give us a quick run through again of the key topics you'll be covering on the day?
For sure. Yeah, look, I'll be really delving into opportunities where people can buy a house and then, of course, look at doing the dual income scenarios at the rear of that block, or opportunities that do have the two titles and what that could mean for you, and showing you the numbers and how people are actually using like $220 extra per week, what that could really look like if you had not just one dual key property, but a second or a third. And we've got clients who are now buying their fourth one because it is just putting money back in their pockets. And when you actually look at what that can do for your principal place of residence, it's amazing. Like, as I said before, I mean, people can shave 20 years off a mortgage. Like, it's pretty phenomenal. So I'll be going into that, be talking about the strategies that you could look at as well if you wanted to go forth and source this on your own, what to look out for when you work with the builder as well, and how to make this work for you so that we are buying people back into that space where it's about freedom, it's about cash flow, it's about having a lifestyle that they can live today.
Beautiful. And Bernadette, do you want to give us a summary on what you're going to be talking about again?
So I guess the thing that I like to look at is why someone would want to improve, like what you're working towards. And so basically I'll be sharing how we approach using property to really lift your income and to actually get to where you want to go faster. Now, a big part of that is Airbnb, but actually the combination of Airbnb and renovating is incredibly powerful. And we have quite a few people in our community doing amazing things by combining those two strategies. So I will be, I guess, sharing a selection of ways that you can get ahead quicker.
Yep, beautiful. So in summary, with what I'll be talking about is you make your money when you buy, how to buy directly from property owners, how to get deals off market. Secondly, investing in talent. How can you invest in talent to make yourself a lot of money and save yourself a lot of money, getting a good ROI? Thirdly is how to find free blocks of land. And then also the bonus topic there is doing deals, no money down. So in each state, I'll be talking about their respective opportunities that I see in each state there. It's not just focused on Queensland or my backyard or Joe talking about property in Queensland. We'll be aiming to talk about properties in each state that we're going to, which is Queensland, New South Wales and Victoria as well. So very good. I think, is there one more slide there? Or is that it? We're done? Bonuses. Oh, my goodness. There's
good
more.
Stuff.
They're good stuff. Like I mentioned this at the beginning, but I completely forgot it towards the end. So, for those who book in and register, what you'll get is a book from myself, the Bankable book, valued at $19.95 there. It's how to make big money from small developments, and you learn the 6 steps to successful property development. So Bernadette, do you want to talk about your Reno style guide valued at $37 and why they should be excited about coming and getting one of those when they register?
The great thing about this is in renovating, it's about being smart about how you spend the money. We have a whole heap of hacks that we use in our renovating, so where we can get the champagne taste on a beer budget. And so basically that's what this is a whole stack of hacks for you to be able to, produce an amazing property, but on a really tiny budget.
Excellent. Love return on investment, right? Good value for money. And what about you, Joe? You've got this Secrets of Property Millionaires Exposed.
Yes, this is actually the second edition of this book. The first time it was printed was in my very early days of learning about property myself, and I pored over the pages because I love hearing about other people's journeys, and I'm very inspired by them. So this, when I had the opportunity and I was asked to be featured in this, it was complete about the 180 degree position to be in from when I first read the book. And I'm there with some very strong alumni in that property space, and it's just breaks it down into digestible chapters about where people have come from, the learnings that they've taken on board, the challenges, mistakes they've made. And as I mentioned when I was speaking earlier, with property investing, it's the tenacious that survive, and it's just a fantastic platform to hear and read about other people's journeys. And I share my presence in that book with somebody else that is amongst us here, Bernadette. She's also featured in a chapter here in the book as well as experts in that field. So it's town planners, depreciation experts as well. So it's a big mix, but you get it. When you start to read it, you see that they've all come from a very similar background, educated themselves, invested in themselves, and gone out and actually taken action.
Yeah, and I think that's one of the biggest things that coming along, whether you become a developer, whether you get an Airbnb, whether you buy a duplex or build a duplex, it doesn't really matter. I think one of the things I know, just being in that environment, is you will get inspired, you will have some breakthroughs and overcome some fears about failing or losing money or making mistakes, because all of us at some stage will have made mistakes, and all of us experience a breakdown in confidence or concerns at any one time. So. But you just got to step up and make that decision, don't you? So
yeah, absolutely.
That you are going to do it, and it's going to happen, hell or high water. So Bernadette, on the next slide, thank you. Very good, very good. Yeah, like I said before, is one of the other bonuses we'll throw in is for those who register tonight by midnight. You'll get you go into the draw to win 30 minutes to win a phone chat. With your chosen speaker, with myself, Joe, or Bernadette. The URL to register is down the bottom there, http://www.theschoolofrenovating.com/freedom offer, and using the coupon code 20freedom. So
yeah, and I've popped that in the chat as well if someone wants to just click on that as a live link. So
yeah, and just saying, so the names are starting to trickle in. So thanks to those who are booking your tickets. You need to know that you're going to have an awesome day. You'll get incredible value out of the day. And what's more, you're going into the draw to spend some one-on-one time with either Jo, Nhan, or myself, whoever will best serve your plans for the future. So on that note, I think we could sign off and say thank you for being on the call tonight.
Yeah, it's been great. Yeah.
Yeah.
I always love hearing your stories as well. Like I know, you know, I'm familiar with the backstory, but every time I go to these events, you know, my tank's always half full at least, but now I come out going, yeah, I love it. I love property.
And that's the thing about property. You do need to be careful about who you're spending time with, and spending time with people who actually fill your tank.
Yep, that's it. So thank you very much. And thank you everyone for joining us tonight and choosing us over Married at First Sight, or what other wonderful temptations there might be in your world. Yeah, it's been lovely to be part of the event.
Okay, beautiful. Well, on that note, we'll sign off. Good night, everyone.
Night.
Thanks, guys. Look forward to seeing you soon. See ya. Bye-bye.
Okay. Bye.